to go. So welcome everyone to another session of the Excel Toronto Meetup group. We are in March 2025 and today we have our Excel Fundamentals or Excel Essentials series session. We are currently running 2 different sessions per month. One is the Excel Essentials series dedicated to more of the core and fundamental features, formulas, functionality of Excel, the one that we believe everyone should be aware of. So these are great sessions for those of you who are just starting your Excel learning journey or just have learned a little bit and want to progress. These sessions tend to be a little bit shorter, 1 hour in total. And then we have the Excel expanded series. These sessions are usually a little bit longer, for about 90 minutes, and we bring in experts from around the world to teach us their best techniques and what they find more interesting about Excel. And usually we cover things that are a little bit more towards the advanced, either because it's something that is not something you would need to know when you are starting with Excel. Sometimes we talk about other features, other tools like Power BI, Power Automate. How do we integrate that with Excel? And so these are the other sessions. Let me continue here. So today we will have Shirley Moreman joining us from the UK. Am I saying right? Is it from the UK, Shirley?
I am definitely in the UK.
It's in okay. Because let's not go there about that discussion. Um, Shirley, I will tell you a little bit more about her in a minute. She will be teaching us today about the Excel checkboxes, which is a fancy new feature we have in Excel just recently. We got it in Excel just recently. So be mindful that we are recording our session, and the way it works is in a couple of days we will be uploading our video to our YouTube channel, which, by the way, you can look for it and subscribe. Just type in Excel Toronto Meetup and you should be able to find it. There's a lot of content there from the past 5 years or so that we've been recording sessions. A lot of valuable content there. And by the way, you have access to all the exercise files by going to our Meetup page. If you are a member, you can go to our Meetup page and look into the discussions pane at the bottom. You will find a post about the exercise files, and there's a link there where you can find all the email communications sent after the session. So in a couple of days, we will upload the video and we will also send out an email saying, here's the link for the video, here's the link for the files that our guests shared with us if you want to follow along. Yeah, things like that, and also extra information every time we have information about Excel events and other things like that. We definitely share that with you guys as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Celia Alves. I am an Excel MVP for 5 years or so now. Yeah. And I've been working as an Excel consultant. I was working as an Excel consultant for a number of years, creating Excel solutions for companies to help them automate their work. And recently I joined Sheetcast, which happens to be our lead sponsor. But we will talk about that. Grania, she has been with us since day one, our first session back in 2019. Do you want to say hi, Grania?
Hello, everyone. I think they've heard my story enough times, but
Yeah.
I just love the being able to meet so many wonderful people through this group and learn so much about different variations of Excel that I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah, it's
Things
been
you
a
think
great.
you know, you discover, oh yeah, but it's very valuable resource for people. So be sure to take a wander through our YouTube for past episodes. You never know what you might stumble across.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a great learning learning journey for me as well. Our next session will be in April 16th. We will have Bill Jelen, which many of you, if not all of you, may know as Mr. Excel. He runs the Mr. Excel YouTube channel and has written 69 books about Excel so far, and he hasn't stopped yet. He recently published a book about pivot tables, which he had done before, but now he included how to work with pivot tables along with dynamic array functions, Power Query, Python, and Copilot. So feel free to join us. I'm sure it will be a great session, as all the sessions with Bill Jelen are. And we will be giving away, he will be giving away two copies, two digital copies of his newest book. So another incentive to get you here with us if you can. Like I was mentioning, Sheetcast is our lead sponsor. Sheetcast is an add-in for Excel that allows us to create web applications out of Excel. So we use Excel to structure our data, to create the calculations, and then the add-in takes care of the web development portion. It's a new concept. And it's been an interesting journey for me learning how to work with it. I'm still learning. In fact, one of these days I'll make sure that we have a session about Sheetcast so that you can learn how it works and see if it is something valuable for you. Women in Excel, do you want to say just a quick shout out to the group, Rania?
Women in Excel we started that, three of us, about a year ago in February at the Global Excel Summit last year. And it's grown from the three of us to, last time I looked, it was around about 350 members. So that's really encouraging. We have regular meetings. The next one is going to be next week on Wednesday. It is for members only, and members do need to be women. So if you would like to join and come to one of our sessions, we start with a lot of chat. Then we have a couple of presentations, like 15-minute presentations with questions and answer periods. And then we go back to chatting. So it's mostly an awful lot of it is getting to know other people, other women that are enthused about Excel, but in a more informal way than a meetup group like this one can do, because with the attendance on these things usually is quite a bit smaller. And so
yes, and
you
sessions
really
are not recorded, right? So
they are not recorded specifically so that people will feel comfortable saying whatever they want to say and not feel that they have to worry about how it's going to
being
sound.
recorded.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so there's a link there. You will get this workbook with our email, and Grania will also post a link on the chat. Feel free to join if you feel that it would be something useful for you.
Yeah, I'm just putting that in there now.
Great. And then there's a whole other set of resources, newsletters, books recommended, YouTube channels. You will get these as well on your email, and you can explore all these resources on your own. So enough talking. Today we have Shirley Moreman, as I have mentioned before. She has a long career in business analysis and systems development, and Shirley has developed a passion for Excel more than 25 years ago, and then she became a freelance developer in 2014. Working with clients in many sectors, Shirley has developed a variety of Excel solutions to automate business processes and save time and money for her clients. And feel free to connect with Shirley on LinkedIn. And thank you, Shirley, for being with us. I know it's a little bit late for you because it's 9:30 now for you, but thank you again for making yourself available and for preparing this session for us. It's always a privilege to have these sessions for free, because I know how much work it goes into planning, preparing, rehearsing, creating the files, all that. So thank you, Shirley. And the
Yes.
floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, first I shall share my screen and hope I get this right this time. Okay, so I just need to pick up my other one.
We've seen your in-cell checkboxes.
Yes, that's good.
Perfect.
That's good. Okay. Yes, so thank you very much to Celia and Ganya for inviting me along to the Toronto Meetup. I just wanted to share a little bit with you. I got very, very excited when I found out that checkboxes were coming as an in-cell feature for Excel. And it seemed to be a long time coming. And so they finally went on general release last July, and I think I was actually one of the last people to get them. Some of my clients had them before I did. But they are so much easier than the old form controls that we used to have to put into Excel if we wanted checkbox. And if you were using a Mac and you tried to use ActiveX controls, they wouldn't work at all. Macs don't like ActiveX. So you used to get all sorts of security issues if you tried to use those. You used to have to try to link another cell to say whether the checkbox was ticked or not ticked. And it was very, very hard to use these in tables and formulas. It just became very, very difficult to connect things up in Excel. And the new ones are really lovely because you can do all sorts of like conditional formatting or just format the checkboxes as you want them to be. So this evening, what I wanted to do is just take you through a few examples of some simple checklists, a couple of things about data validation, which you can use with checkboxes. And there's a couple of gotchas in there as well. So things aren't quite there yet with them. And I'm hoping Microsoft might be still doing some development. Talk about some using them in some creative ways for status checking and displaying tasks. And also a little bit about if you use VBA with tables about ghost checkboxes, which miraculously disappear sometimes. So without further ado, I'll go on to my first example, and this is a fairly straightforward checklist example, just to really show you how easy it is to put the checkboxes in and do some of the simple formulas and conditional formatting with them. So to insert checkboxes, it's really, really simple. You just highlight everywhere where you want the checkbox, go to the insert menu on the ribbon and click on checkbox, and miraculously they all appear. Personally, I don't really like them being very dark black, so I usually just reformat them to a different font, and I just use something like a dark grey or something, whatever fits in with your colour scheme. When I'm doing client work, I very often make the colour schemes the same as their corporate colours, so you can just change the colour. It's literally just a change of a font colour. So once you've inserted them, you can just tick them or untick them as you would like. And the other thing you can do is if you want to tick all of them, if you just select them all and press the space bar, it just ticks all of them all in one go. And then you just press space bar again and it unticks them. So that's really a neat way of doing things. And what happens in the background, as you'll see up on the formula bar, it just changes the value from false, and then it changes to true when you tick them. So you can just use them in formulas just like everything else. What you can also do is to do some conditional formatting, because the formatting, just the rules are the same. So if you wanted to say, for example, change the color of anyone who has said they're coming to green, then you can just go to your conditional formatting, create a rule, and all you need to do is to say if that's equals, which cell is it, E8, And because conditional formatting just assumes you mean true unless you say anything, something different, and then you can just change the formatting, and I'll just change that to green, click OK, OK. And now when I tick one of these boxes, it turns it green as I tick it.
Nice.
So the other thing you can do is you can use a simple formula to count up how many ticks you've got in the box. So you can just use a count if. So if I do a count if, and then this column is true, and it just gives me a total number of how many replies I've had. The other thing you can do as well is that you can set the checkboxes based on a formula. So in this column, if I change this, so if I want to know how many people are not coming, so if I assume that if I've received an RSVP, but they haven't said they're coming, I want to just assume that they're not coming. So in here, we can just put the simple formula to say if this is true, we can put equals true, or it just assume you mean true. And the coming column is false, then it ticks it automatically for you. So if I then tick this one and this one, this doesn't show as declined. If I untick this, oh, I need to copy the formula down, then it shows it as declined. So you can just use some really, really sort of simple formulas within the columns if you want to. And the one at the top here, I just literally used a simple count ifs within the within some text just to show me how many people I was still waiting for replies from, and that just automatically changes as I get my RSVPs in. Okay, any questions on that one before I move on to the next one?
We have one.
Yeah.
Henry is asking, is there anything in the new checkboxes that they can't do with the old check form control boxes? So can the old stuff do anything the new one can't?
I'm not really. I can't think of anything that I've come across. I didn't used to use them very often, but I think mostly because they were very limited. But you can control them with VBA if you want to. You're just literally just setting a value to true or false. I guess the only thing you can't do is move them around onto different areas of the screen if you want to. So because they are linked to a cell within the workbook, you can't sort of like move them around the screen so easily. So you have to sort of plan your formatting a little bit.
Okay. Shirley, can maybe I was distracted. I'm not sure if you covered. Did you emphasize that a checkbox is actually a true or a false value in the grid?
Yes.
So for people who are not okay.
Yeah. So
just thinking
as this one here, say for example, if you look in the formula bar, that's set to true. And if I untick it, it just sets it to false. So all they are is trues and falses. It's just a neat way of showing true and false in a box. But they behave exactly the same as if I just typed true in the box.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mary is asking, what version is this checkbox available in?
I believe it has to be 365, Office 365. I believe, I don't know whether it's included in the very later versions. I'm imagining not, because I think the last, I've lost touch a bit because I've been on 365 for so long. I think the last version was 21. Am I right?
I think they brought out 24 recently.
24, yes.
Is there a 24? They may be in the 24 version.
Mike Thomas says 24. But I don't know whether he means that's
Yes.
the latest version or it's available in 24.
I don't know. It's always one of the first questions I ask a new client is which version are you on? Because I get very frustrated if they're on very old versions of Excel. But I've been on 365 for so long, I'm not sure where we are with versions now.
Yeah, Mike is saying, 2024 is the latest version. And he's saying that even if you have 365, you may not have them yet.
Really?
It should be available on the Microsoft 365 for all the users, I would say.
Unless their companies are
on current channel. On current
Yeah.
channel, it says.
Sometimes companies don't roll out the new versions very quickly. I had a client a little while ago who was still on a 2019 version.
Oh,
Yeah.
We couldn't
And
work out why Power Query wasn't working properly.
I put in a link on the chat with the information from Microsoft. Sometimes these pages are not totally updated, fully updated, but it mentions Excel. So Excel for Microsoft 365, 365 for Mac, and for the web. So you can use, if you have a Microsoft account, you can use Excel on the web for free, even if you don't have a Microsoft 365 subscription. And you have checkboxes there. So the file would have to be saved in OneDrive.
Okay.
Yes.
And Casper is asking, can one go as far as to use lambda, scan, by row, by column, and let formulas in combination with the checkboxes?
I've used them with let formulas. I haven't tried them with some of those more complex lambdas, but I can't really see any reason why they wouldn't work because it is just a true or a false.
Correct. I agree.
My very last example will show you how I've used it in a let formula. But I've not tried them with lambdas, but I honestly can't think of any reason why they wouldn't work with lambdas because they're just true and false. So anything, most functions within Excel, you can pass it something that says, is this true or false with an if statement.
We're going to be on questions a while. We've got one. Somebody is saying they can't check right now, but can you try something like equals sum, bracket, double, negative, more brackets in the invited column to count the checked?
I have an example, my status tab, when I get to that one, I will show you an example of it doing exactly that.
Oh, good. So we're just getting ahead of you. Okay, well.
Yeah, I can't think of everything. I haven't thought about the lambdas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the gist that I
go.
see.
Yeah.
Then I move on to the next one.
Please.
Okay. Right. We'll let's have a look at a couple of examples of using data validation. So the old way of doing data validation, if you wanted something true or false, particularly if you were working in tables, which I do all the time, is you had to create a drop-down list of yes or no. And although it's doable, and it's a bit painful, isn't it? So, so with the checkboxes, I just already created these as we did before. So you can just put checkboxes into a column. But we might want to set some rules on here. So when I was growing up, I was always told that you can't have a dessert if you don't have a main course. So I want old habits die hard. So at the moment, I can check any combination of these different checkboxes. But I want to make a rule that says I can't tick the dessert checkbox if I haven't already ticked the main one. So on here, I'm just going to put a data validation rule in that says you can't check this unless this one is checked. So I have data validation. I use it all the time. So it's on my quick access toolbar. So, but you usually find it on your formulas toolbar, I think. No, this is not coming up. Oh, it's all right. I think it's because we're streaming that it takes a little while to catch up with itself. So, so I'm creating a custom checkbox data validation rule that just says equals C10, which is the cell directly above the one which has got the dessert checkbox in it. And because data validation just assumes true, you mean true unless you tell it anything else. I'm just going to put in here an error alert. So just say error in there and click OK, because this is a bit of a gotcha. So I can choose main, and now I can still choose dessert. But if I uncheck main, I need to do that the other way around. So if I check, now I can't check dessert because I haven't chosen main yet. But as you just saw, there's nothing to stop me at the moment ticking main, then ticking dessert, and then unticking main. So now I've broken the rule. So what we can do there is we can add another data validation rule. I'm just going to untick. Always, little tip, always uncheck the boxes before you put the data validation rules in, because it catches me out every single time. So on the main checkbox, we're going to add another data validation rule. And let's just do this. And I'm going to tell this one. So if C11, which is the dessert checkbox, is false, I can't change the main checkbox. So I can't change this one. And I'm going to click OK on there. So now if I tick main, I can tick dessert, but now I can't untick main because I've put a rule in place that says I can't do that. So the only thing is, when we did the checkbox for, so if I untick that one, I can untick that one. When we did the rule for this one, if you remember, I put an error message in to say, stop me doing this, but display an error message. And what happens with data validation on checkboxes is you never see an error message. So if you were doing this for a user, they kind of go, well, why can't I check this checkbox? It just doesn't let me. So actually, this was brought up when I did this presentation to the Women in Excel group. Somebody came up with a great idea, which was to put an input message in to say mistake or something. You can't have dessert without main. Okay. And now that pops up in there. So at least it gives somebody an idea of why they can't tick that box. Because the error messages, the stop message doesn't come up. So now if I tick that one, I can tick that one. Okay, so that's my first data validation. Any comment, questions on that one, Celia or Grania?
Interesting finding. I had not realized data validation would not display the error.
Yes,
That's an interesting. I think it's because what if you, instead of ticking the checkbox, you type in true or false in the formula bar?
I've not tried that.
So for example, if you untick everything.
Let me untick these ones and let me try doing that and try changing that to true. Now that displays an error.
Yeah, so it's because you are not changing. It's Excel that is changing the value for you, instead of you actually entering a value in the cell, which is what triggers the data validation. So it's related to that, but it's an interesting finding. I have not thought of that.
It's just a bit frustrating and this is why I think the idea of putting this help box up is a good thing, because otherwise I've had this before where I've done a rule and people have said, well, why can't I check that box? So usually I put a little bit of text at the top that explains or something, or the rules are explained.
A reminder kind of message. Yeah, and of course, if you have checkboxes, you will not be typing true or false, because checkboxes are to be easy for the user to tick on and off, right?
Definitely. Absolutely. I think it's probably because of the way that in the background, it's converting that tick to a true or a false. It's not actually changing it. So Yeah, I suspect that that's what it is, but I'm hoping that maybe those clever guys in Microsoft might find a way of doing it. Okay, shall I go on to my next one?
Actually,
There's a
Henry has a
question.
couple of questions.
Okay.
So, Henry asks, does it have a function equivalent with radio buttons? Like, for example, if only one value in a group is true while the others are false without using a formula.
My second data validation covers exactly that. So
We are
I've covered that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other question.
we have such good students, right?
Yeah. And can you make the checkbox gray if it's not clickable?
I don't know, to be honest. I've not tried that.
I wonder if data validation.
I'm thinking you would probably have to put that rule in another cell to make it so that you could use conditional formatting, because you can't, unless some clever person knows a way of doing this, but I don't know, you can't link conditional formatting to data validation. So you would probably have to have a value in another cell that you would then use conditional formatting to grey that checkbox out.
My first idea would be to add the same data validation, or maybe the opposite, the negation, the not. The data validation rule with a not before. One of those added to the conditional formatting feature as a rule might work. Something like that. Something to try.
I might have to play with that now. You've given me another thing to play with.
Yes, next time you present, you'll have even more examples.
Virginia is suggesting C11 equals C10 equals false. So
yes. You could probably do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not something I've played with, but yes, that's definitely something that you could potentially do, but I've not played with that. But yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for the moment. So we move on before somebody thinks something up.
Okay, so the question about can you make them behave like radio buttons? Yes, you can. I think it's Marcus Cyburn put something on LinkedIn the other day that you could combine this with a little bit of VBA to make them behave even more like radio buttons. Or maybe Microsoft Monday might give us in-cell radio buttons, which would be really cool. But you can kind of make them behave like them anyway. So this came from Jan Carell's Office Pub Quiz quite a while ago now. And basically the challenge was to make it so that you can only choose one option. At the moment, without any data validation in, I can choose as many of these as I want. I can choose 2 or 3 or 4. So the idea was to make it so that you can only select one. So it's a fairly simple bit of data validation. Just select them all. And I wrote that down twice. Don't forget to untick them first. And then in the custom formula, I'll just do a count if and say if C8, which is the first row, to F8, which is that whole first row. I'm just going to fix, oops, SF2 first, Shirley. Sometimes I hate these little dialog boxes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fix the columns. Sorry. Excuse my cough. I'm trying to make it all the way through to the end. So what I want to do is I want to check that that's less, the count of trues is less than or equal to 1. And click OK. And now when I do this, I can only click 1. Now I can choose any one on any row, but I can't choose more than one on any row. So that's making them behave like radio buttons. And I've actually used that in a client project fairly recently where they sell a combination of products, but there's only certain combinations that are allowed. And I did actually put a little bit of VBA in there so that basically if they tried to choose too many, it would untick the ones that they weren't allowed to have as combinations. So you can do it with a little bit of VBA, but you can put some validation rules in to just allow them only to tick one in any row. Okay.
Good one.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one. As I say, I've used that in a live project. So, any questions on that one?
Henry is bound to and determined to stump you. So
he's trying to catch me out.
Henry is now asking, can you make the square box, the square checkbox, a circle?
No.
Henry,
You definitely can't. Unless somebody has come up with some really, really smart way of putting I wonder if you might be able to do it if you used something like Wingdings or something, but I don't think it would work. Marcus came up with a way of doing it, but he was using different symbols within the cell, and then he was using VBA to control it, not doing it with checkboxes. So
I wonder if number formatting, but I'm not sure how number formatting deals with true and false, because we format or positive numbers, negative numbers, zero and text, right?
Yeah,
so I'm not sure how. I don't remember having worked with number formatting for Boolean values.
So. No, not as far as I'm aware. That would be neat, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you could do that. But yeah, again, I guess it's something to play with, I guess, is Henry is certainly challenging me to think about some other options tonight. So
yeah,
I won't go to bed tonight now. I should be playing with Excel all night. Okay, anything else?
Comments, but no questions.
Cool. Okay. The next example is status, and this was one that Alan Murray originally posted. I get lots of ideas from people, and then I borrow them and adapt them in slightly different ways. And this was a version that Alan did a little while ago, which he very kindly gave him permission to steal. So on this one, we've got some products and we have some process steps. So we have them ordered, packed, shipped, and delivered. And we can check what the progress is by counting how many are true. Now you can use countifs if you want to, but the other way of doing it is a couple of ways of doing it, and then I can do an equal sum and do the double unary, which was what we were talking about earlier, to convert the trues and falses into ones and zeros, and then I can count that up. And so if I tick one or two of them, you can see that I've got a progress there of how many boxes I've got ticked. And what I did took this a little bit of a step further from what Alan had originally done. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to show like symbols in there instead? So I just edited this formula and I used the repeat function. I don't know if people are familiar with that. And the thing I love these days is with the repeat function, you've got you can put emojis and things in there. So although they don't render very well, but it just comes up as a star rather than anything very pretty. But basically, you can use repeat to show the progress. So it puts the number of stars in depending on how many you've done. And then I did another one where I did it so that when you get to 4, I just added some conditional formatting in there so that it shows in green rather than blue when it's all completed. So just to make it look pretty, because I like making things look pretty. So that was one thing I did. I'm just going to uncheck all these. The other thing you can do, actually, I'll just check a couple of those just so that I can show you when I do this. So yeah, that was an example of using the double unary to convert them, but you could also just do a +0 on the sum to make sure it's a value. It's just that it needs to be numbers, or you could have just used the COUNTIF that I used before. I just wanted to show a few different techniques. So the stage that we're at, we want to check from the headings that we have here, depending on how many boxes we've ticked, we want to show, for example, this one, we would want to show that the stage that this one has reached is the packed stage, and make it flexible so that if we change the column headings, we don't have to change the formula. So this is where I'm just going to expand my formula bar down a bit because I'm going to use a let statement here. And what I'm going to do is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many ticks there are. So I'm going to define that as a variable of ticks. Oops. Lowercase, otherwise it gets a bit confusing. With me. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sum up how many ticks there are. I could take it from the previous cell if I wanted to, but I'm just going to do it this way. Oops. And I'm going to sum up these. Oops, got the double unary. So that tells me how many ticks I've got. And then it just makes it easier when I'm doing the index part of the formula. So from there, I do, we don't have anything to say what the stage is if we haven't got any ticks. So I'm just going to do an if statement first of all to say that if my ticks is 0, I'm going to call that pending. If it's not 0, then instead of saying if it's 1, do ordered, if it's 2, do packed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an index on the headings. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't need a row argument, but my column argument is going to be my ticks. And this is where I have to count the brackets. Close the sum, close the let. That's it. So this tells me now that if I get to, if I've got 3 boxes ticked, it shows shipped. And if I change this to, say, posted, for example, oops, posted, then it automatically changes this without me having to go in and change the formula. So the other thing I did, how are we doing for time? Because I added some data validation in on my other one, but I'm just conscious of the time.
We have time. Yeah, we have time.
Are we okay? Okay. The other thing that I thought was an additional thing, just clear all those before I put my data validation in. So what I did on the data validation was that I said I don't want to be able to choose packed if I haven't ordered it yet. So I wanted to control which of these boxes you can tick. So you can't say it's delivered if you haven't got it ordered. So that was, again, fairly simple data validation rule that basically I put just in these columns because I don't need it in this one. I've got data validation, custom again, and the formula is just equals C6. So all I'm doing is I'm checking if the previous tick box is checked before I allow this one to be checked. And if I click OK on there, now I can't tick packed or shipped until I've ticked ordered. So I can tick ordered, then I can tick packed. Can't tick delivered because I haven't ticked shipped. So it's a way of controlling the process. Again, similar to what we did before with the data validation on the rules about whether you can have a main course with a dessert. Same sort of principle, and but all I'm doing is checking to see if the previous cell is true. Okay.
Shirley,
Yeah.
AY has a question, and I think it's one that several people might have. In your let, you say you use ticks in the formula to say, refer to it later. And so AY is asking, is ticks a named range? So I don't think they quite followed that, how you said the third argument was ticks.
Okay, so it depends how familiar you are with let statements, but the idea with a let is that you can define a variable. So this isn't a name range. I could have called this absolutely anything I wanted to. I could have just called it T if I wanted to. I just use ticks because it's easier to understand. So effective, oh, I need to change it here as well. It means really, if you've got something where you want to just use the same value repeatedly in your formula, you only need to define it once. So when you're using a let statement, so I've defined what I mean by the letter T. When I say T anywhere else in my formula, I mean the sum of the true values. So when I said that if the sum of those is 0, if I hadn't done that, I would have had to type in here, if the sum of the true values is 0, pending, otherwise index the headers, and the column value, or the index number I want is the sum, and I'd have had to repeat this. So it would have been repeated here and here. So it's just a way of shortcutting your formula, really. It just makes the formula a bit neater.
Yeah. Okay, so we
could do a whole session on let.
Yes. We have a couple of sessions on let, and I do recommend exploring this function because it makes it so much easier. Like you say, Shirley, we don't have to be repeating stuff all over and over in the same formula. So that's what let is for.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I use it all the time. It's just one of those functions that it just makes things so much easier. So even though I changed it to T instead of ticks, it still works. You can call it whatever you want. I've got another example actually when the task display. So okay, anything else?
Great.
No.
Okay, right. Just a couple more to go. My ghosts one. This is really related to VBA. This is just a little table I created from some products, so you can choose a different product, and it does all sorts of calculations. This is a kind of thing that I quite often do for my clients, where we load a blank table up, they fill the data in, and then they click a button to submit that to something. Either it's a printed report, or it gets written out to another table, or something happens to it. And then once they've written that data out, I use VBA to clear the table ready for the next lot of data entry. So then they can click on here to say it's shipped. And I may have filled this data from another table or somewhere else. So, and it may just be like it's an order and we just tick to say it's shipped. But when you clear the table with VBA, I've got 2 versions of it. So just to show you what it does. On the first version, I clear the table. So it gets rid of all the products and quantities and everything, leaves all the formulas in place. But you notice, I don't know whether you can see this, but my checkboxes have gone like ghosts. It's still there, but you can't really see it. You can just about make it out. It's got a white outline in the background here. And you can see that I can still tick them and then it comes back. But when I clear it, it disappears. So what I found was that in the VBA code, it was literally just one extra line of code in the VBA. Let me just refill it. And then if I use this one, it resets them back. And all I had to do was change it so that this column in the table, when after I cleared the table, resets it to false. And that way it holds the checkbox there. It's a really weird thing. It's the only bit that I found when they first released checkboxes. We used to get all sorts of ghosted checkboxes. They would sometimes just disappear. But they seem to have fixed all that. But I'm guessing that Microsoft don't do much with VBA these days. So, but it's a very, very easy thing to fix just by resetting them to false each time. Okay,
is it possible to show the code very quickly, Shirley?
I can show you the code. Bear with me. Let me just find it. Is it here? Ghosts. Right, let me just drag this out. I'm not sure how easy it will be to see.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Let's get this over here. So, yeah, all I'm doing here is I'm declaring the table as a list object. And then all I'm doing is clearing the first one, I'm just clearing everything. And the second one is this one. And after I've cleared the table, on here, the list column 6, which is that one with the checkboxes in it, in the data body range, I just reset it to false. And that works. So it was literally just that one extra line of code in there. And this is included with the solutions file that I've sent over. It's also got my refill in there, so you can see how it refills it again. With lots of hard coding in there. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, last one. This one I'm not planning on going through in a lot of detail, but I have created a walkthrough for it because it's actually quite complex. But this was John Akampura's show details checkbox, and I thought this was so cool. And he created this, and if you want to see the details, I've done a walkthrough tab as well, which kind of explains all the bits of all the parts of the formula. But if you watch John's video, I've put a link in the file. So watch John's video because he walks you through it and explains it. So to just explain some background, this is like it could be anything, could be orders. I think John's was sales orders or something. And then on another tab, I've got project data. So this has got, for each of those project numbers, it's got some other information, date, what the project name is, the tasks, and the status of each task relating to each project. So what happens on here is when I tick one of these, it displays the details alongside. And I thought this was just really neat.
Lovely, yeah.
And it moves down so the heading always stays alongside the one that you selected. Yeah, I also put some data validation in. This is all done with conditional formatting. So that it's literally the conditional formatting is just applied all the way down these columns. So that if it's task, it puts a blue heading and puts the headings in. If it's just a list, then it shows them in with a grey background just so that you can see them a little bit more easy. And this is using quite, as you can see, when I expand it out, quite a complicated formula. It's using, again, using let, and in this case, we've used R and all R is doing is saying which checkbox have I ticked, so which row is that on? So it's saying which row has true, so it knows that R in this case is row 3. And then I've declared an array which filters my tasks table based on which project number I've selected, because it knows which one that is in R. And then this bit, the expand function takes some blank rows, which is this G5, because we always want this to be because we always want it to position in the right place. So we get blank rows above R. And then we stack that with headings, which is a named range. For whoever asked a bit before, was that a named range? In this case, it is actually a named range. I've just called my headings task and status. I named that as a range. And then my array. And then the drop just drops the top row off of there so that it doesn't include that blank row at the top. And the if error wrapped around it puts a blank in there, because otherwise, if you don't choose any tick box, you don't see, all you see is a hash NA. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate hash errors in my spreadsheets. So let's get rid of that. So yeah, as I say, it's quite a complex formula, and I have to totally credit John with this because I thought it was really cool, but I didn't think of it. All I've done is just adapted it a little bit from what he did and just used it for this demonstration. So, but what I have done on the task display walkthrough is that I've put a demo table here, and then I've literally explained what each part of that formula is doing. So you can see it on here. But as I say, if you want to see a complete walkthrough, is check in with John's video, because he does a complete walkthrough of it. I think he did a couple of videos on it actually. So the one I've linked to is where he actually walks you through it. Okay, and that's it. That's me with checkboxes. So as I say, I think the possibilities with them are almost endless. So and I just really love them. So
Yeah, I
any
think
questions?
it helps watching examples like the ones you were giving us, because now we can start thinking of other things, like with all the questions we were getting. And yeah, it was great. Thank you, Shirley. I learned a couple of things. I was not aware of some of the details you mentioned, so great. Henry is saying, wow, a dynamic array would spill. Great. Yes. Dynamic. I think he's meaning an array of arrays. Yes. It does not, Excel does not handle that, except for very particular scenarios with certain formulas. So yes, unfortunately, that's how it is.
I think the other thing is, one of the most important things is to, I don't normally like blank columns. With this particular example, you need to leave a blank column between your formula and the table. Otherwise, it tries to put it in the table. And I mean, you could do it, but you just have to resize your table afterwards. It's just and of course, dynamic formula array formulas don't work in tables because you just get spill errors. So unfortunately.
I'm not seeing any more questions, but you've got some pretty spectacular comments in there about people getting a lot out of this session, and you really do need to spend a few minutes reading them for yourself. They're really very good.
Okay, I switched the chat off on my screen because otherwise it's very distracting when you're trying to present and all you can see lots of chat coming up. But I will definitely have a look through those. So thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, excellent session. And I think we've covered, yes, because the only other question that was in there, Celia answered in the chat. So I think we're done. I think we're done with questions.
Excellent. Okay, yeah. Sorry, we went on a little bit longer than I'd expected.
No,
but no,
we don't.
It's good to get.
That's okay. We don't have a hard stop. We kind of
okay.
programmed the session to go around 1 hour, but this is supposed to be a relaxing time for everyone, a relaxed time for everyone. We don't want to be too worried about having to stop at the minute. So don't worry about that. And it was really great. Thank you for all the work put into your file and thought on the examples, even writing all the walkthrough for that more complex example. Yeah, like I said, these sessions take time, and I know the work it takes to prepare something for like this. So thank you again, Shirley. It was it's a privilege for us. A lot of thank yous, a lot of fantastic presentations, kind of comment. Thank you everyone for having joined us. If you have any other question or comment, just take this very last minute and to ask. You can turn on your mic if you prefer and turn on your video if you prefer, or just type in the chat. I'm just going to put up Shirley's contact information in case you want to connect with Shirley on LinkedIn. And
I can pop that in.
Yeah,
I've got
you
it
can
right
put
here.
it there. Yeah.
I'm very happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, but when you do, if you do a connection request, could you just mention that you were at this meetup? Because otherwise I get loads of connection requests and I think, I don't know where that came from.
It will give you special connection credentials.
Yes.
Yes, I don't always accept connection requests, but if you put in if you just add a comment to say that we met at the Toronto meetup, then that will be, I can accept your connection request.
One thing I liked about this session is that people learned more than just checkboxes, because you did a pretty good covering on data validation and conditional formatting and lead. So you covered a lot of topics on top of
and using double unaries in some functions.
Yes. Yeah. So lots of extra stuff learned. So very nice indeed. And just again from the Women in Excel, just so everybody will know, Shirley is one of our members and presented a smaller version of this to our group a while ago, and it went over really well at that session as well. So it's very informal, relaxed, chit-chatty kind of session.
Yeah, so it's a good one. Yeah, I think I actually got a bit longer, didn't I? Because Anne Walsh was supposed to be presenting and her internet went down, didn't she?
Yeah, she was struck by one of those storms that hit Ireland, and she had no internet for a week. So you ended up doing double duty.
A bit of a longer session, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
that
you.
Was wonderful.
I think that's all. We have Mike Thomas there. Percent is double honorary. I don't know. I'm not following you, Mike. I'm out of context, I think. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And remember to register for the next session if you want to learn from Bill Jelen about pivot tables with Copilot, dynamic arrays, and all that fun stuff, and Python. You have something else to add, Grania?
Yes, Trevor's just asked a question. I think it's actually a pretty good one. He's asking, are there any plans to reschedule Shandeep's session? Because
yes, we are going to reschedule. We are just, I haven't had the chance to set up a date yet. It should be in June or July only, probably, because we already have other speakers set up for the next few months. So that's it. But we will definitely want to have Shandeep with us to present the session that he had prepared for us. So yeah, just keep an eye on the Meetup app or the emails that we send every now and then, and it should be rescheduled soon. Okay.
And Shandeep is one not to miss.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It may take a couple of days now to get the email and all that, because I'm attending the Microsoft MVP Summit next week. It will be a full week. I'm traveling on Sunday and then only coming back the next Saturday. So it's usually I do this over the weekend. I'll do my best to do it before that. So, but if you see that this email for this session is taking like a week to arrive, that's the reason why. But we will send it to you. Okay.
Perfect.
Lovely. And Shirley, thank you so much. This was a really, really good session.
Thank you very much. And thanks for all the feedback and the comments and the questions and some new ideas. I'm going to go off and explore. No, I'm going to go to bed now because it's 20 to 11.
Yes. Thank you for staying up late.
Maybe tomorrow I will do it. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye. Have a
everyone.
good night or a good day, depending on where you are. Thank you.
Good night.
Don't
Bye
forget to
bye.
end the recording, Celia.
Yes, I'm going to finish ending the meeting now for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.